Michael Jackson's name just showed up in the Jeffrey Epstein documents, and the internet lost its mind. Headlines everywhere, social media on fire, millions of comments. Now people yelling at each other, and everyone has an opinion. Some say he was guilty. Others say he was a hero who rescued kids from Epstein's island. But nobody, and I mean nobody, is asking the one question that actually changes everything. Why is the whole world talking about a man who has been dead since 2009, while the living people in those same files are still walking free? Stay with me, because what you're about to see is going to completely change how you look at this story.
Just when you thought you knew everything there was to know about the often bizarre life of Michael Jackson, more information is revealed. The FBI has released more than 300 pages of formerly classified documents relating to the late King of Pop, including details regarding his child cases. It's also come out a man allegedly obsessed with Jacko's sister Janet threatened to kill the star and thousands of his fans if he wasn't given half of the singer's fortune. In one letter dated in July 1992, the man states he will personally attempt to kill if he isn't paid his money.
I know you clicked on this video for a reason. You want clarity. The real, verified story behind Michael Jackson and Jeffrey Epstein. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. We'll look at what publicly available records and discussions actually say, what official investigations found over the years, and how certain claims spread across the internet, sometimes without solid evidence. We'll also examine how conspiracy theories gain traction and why it's important to separate documented facts from speculation. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer picture of what is confirmed, what is claimed, and what still remains uncertain, so you can form your own informed opinion. Let's get into it.
But why would the FBI have a 300-page file on Jackson? Turns out many celebrities routinely end up finding themselves under FBI scrutiny. There are FBI files on Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Martin Luther King, even former Supreme Court Justice William Rehnquist. Many involve threats. The new FBI files detail how Michael Jackson received death threats from a man obsessed with his famous sister Janet.
Now, before I start with real facts, I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not going to go much deeper into who is Epstein and what he did, as most of you might already know it.
Two very different stories started spreading at the same time. The first claimed that Michael Jackson was connected to Jeffrey Epstein. The second, more of an internet conspiracy, suggested that Michael Jackson was secretly involved in rescuing children from Epstein's network. Both narratives spread widely online, reaching millions of people. But before you can understand why these claims gain traction, it's important to look at the documented timeline of what actually happened. In 1993, allegations involving Michael Jackson first became public. The case drew massive attention due to his global fame. Various law enforcement agencies, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, reviewed information related to him over the years. The FBI's publicly released files span a long period and include hundreds of pages. However, it's important to understand that the FBI's role in these documents was often supporting or assisting other investigations, rather than running a single continuous case for a full decade. In 2005, Michael Jackson was tried in a California court and was acquitted on all charges. The official records that are publicly available do not establish a connection between Michael Jackson and Jeffrey Epstein. So while many claims continue to circulate online, the documented record tells a more grounded and verifiable story, one that's often very different for what spreads on social media.
You're telling us nothing happened, is that right?
Yes.
All right. What you're really telling us is nothing happened while you were awake. Isn't that true?
I'm telling you that nothing ever happened.
Mr. Robson, when you were asleep, you wouldn't have known what had happened, particularly at age 7, would you have?
I would think something like that would wake me up.
Okay. Okay. Compose yourself. The prosecution's theory is that this witness that they didn't call, but who they say was molested, didn't remember because he was asleep when it happened. Is that right?
The prosecution's theory is if they're called by the Jackson camp, they must be lying. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? First of all, I remember Wade Robson. I talked to Wade Robson. Okay. I remember this kid very well, and some of the other witnesses we'll see. And he was as strong as he could be 12 years ago as he is now with respect to what happened.
And this is the witness who the maid said she saw with Michael Jackson in the shower. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he flatly contradicts that. He appears to be very credible. He says, no, that didn't happen. And this maid, of course, received money from Michael Jackson and therefore has a motive.
And let's remember that testimony. She doesn't say she specifically sees him. Remember, it was foggy in the shower.
Yes.
She may have saw two people, wasn't quite sure, testified she couldn't tell, and now this comes out.
Now, here's where things get more detailed. In 2003, authorities carried out a search at Neverland Ranch. During that process, multiple computers and storage devices were seized for forensic review. These materials were later examined with the assistance of specialists, including teams connected to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. According to publicly released documents, the digital evidence was analyzed for any signs of illegal material or suspicious activity. This included reviewing files, deleted data, and overall system usage. An FBI-related report from April 2004 indicated that there were no significant leads or evidence found on those devices related to illegal digital content. That point has often been highlighted in discussions around the case. However, it's important to keep the full context in mind. Digital evidence is just one part of a much larger legal process, and conclusions are based on the totality of evidence reviewed in court. The key takeaway is that, based on the available records, the forensic analysis of those devices did not produce evidence supporting the specific claims being investigated at that time.
You're telling us nothing happened, is that right?
Yes.
All right. What you're really telling us is nothing happened while you were awake. Isn't that true?
I'm telling you that nothing ever happened.
At the end of the day, the case against Michael Jackson went through a full legal process at the Santa Barbara County Superior Court, where all evidence, testimony, and arguments were examined in detail. After careful deliberation, the jury returned a unanimous verdict of not guilty on all charges, showing that the prosecution did not meet the legal standard required for conviction. This is the part that often gets lost online. There is a difference between allegations, media narratives, and what is actually proven in court. While discussions and opinions may continue, the official outcome of the trial remains clear.
No, I'm going to put it the way I had it before. So sorry.
Now, let's look at what the records actually say. Not headlines, not assumptions, just documented information. When files related to Jeffrey Epstein were discussed publicly, one item that circulated was a photo showing Michael Jackson at a celebrity event alongside other public figures. The date and context of that image remain unclear, and on its own, it does not establish any connection to wrongdoing. References to Michael Jackson also appeared in broader lists of well-known individuals, but those lists included hundreds of public figures and are not evidence of involvement in any crimes. More importantly, publicly discussed records and testimony have not established any link between Michael Jackson and Epstein's criminal activities. In fact, available information, including statements given under oath in related proceedings, does not support claims of any such connection. At the same time, viral theories spread online in both directions, some claiming involvement, others portraying him as a hidden figure in unrelated events. But when you look at verified timelines and documented facts, those narratives don't hold up. Dates, events, and records matter, and when you line them up, the story becomes much clearer than what social media often suggests.
The White House, Abigail Jackson from the White House saying, per the Epstein Files Transparency Act, DOJ was specifically instructed only to redact the faces of victims and or minors. Here is a picture of Bill Clinton with his arm around Michael Jackson and redacted individuals. And so that is some of the early thinking right now of these files that are being released, photos and some redactions along the way as well. Some more than 1,200 victims with powerful figures, and the files include new photos of former President Bill Clinton and Epstein on the island. So now for more on this, to talk about the way that these files...
Millions of people shared that clip. It spread across platforms and was treated by many as proof. But there was one major problem. It wasn't real. In February 2026, fact-checkers, including Snopes, reviewed the viral audio and rated it false, noting strong indicators that it was likely AI-generated. Tools designed to detect synthetic voices also suggested a high probability that the clip was not authentic. There's no verified interview where Macaulay Culkin makes those claims, and no credible source has confirmed the audio as real. This highlights how easily misinformation can spread, especially when content appears convincing at first glance. That viral clip doesn't prove anything about Michael Jackson. What it does show is how quickly unverified or manipulated content can circulate online and shape public perception. At the same time, some individuals who knew Michael Jackson personally have publicly shared their own perspectives. Corey Feldman, a former child actor, has spoken in interviews about his experiences in the entertainment industry and has stated that he personally felt safe around Jackson. These are individual viewpoints and part of a much larger, complex history, but they are often left out when viral narratives take over. So here's the bigger question people should be asking. Why does so much attention stay focused on Michael Jackson, a figure who passed away in 2009 and can no longer respond, while discussions about ongoing accountability often receive less focus? When public debates center around viral claims, edited clips, or unverified narratives, it can shift attention away from documented cases and real individuals who are still part of ongoing legal and investigative conversations connected to Jeffrey Epstein. For example, people like Maria Farmer have spoken publicly about their experiences and the challenges of being heard. These are real stories that highlight how complex and delayed justice processes can be. It's also important to recognize that spreading false or unverified content, even with good intentions, can create confusion and make it harder to separate fact from fiction. In some cases, it can even weaken credible discussions by mixing verified information with speculation. The documented record around Michael Jackson includes court outcomes, publicly released files, and statements from individuals with direct knowledge. Those verified elements form the foundation of what can actually be confirmed. At the same time, broader conversations should remain focused on evidence, accountability, and credible sources, rather than distractions created by viral misinformation. So now the question becomes, how should people approach these topics responsibly? Share your thoughts and focus on what can be supported with facts.